Hello, everyone. I am Simon McGree. I'm associated with the Australian Bureau of Meteorology and the Pacific Regional Climate Centre Network. This is the Pacific Regional Climate Centre area of responsibility. To the west, it extends as far west as Palau in the Northwest Pacific. And to the east, it extends as far as the Pitcairn Islands, which are to the right of French Polynesia. To the north, it extends as far as the Northern Mariana Islands, north of Guam, and to the south, Norfolk and the Lord Howe Islands, which are associated with Australia. We occasionally include the the American state of Hawaii, when it comes to the regional homogenization data set, but not very often. In terms of homogenization data and methods, the Australian Bureau of Meteorology has supported the Pacific Island countries with data homogenization for a good number of years. Our efforts first began in the late 1990s. And in terms of variables, we've assisted them with precipitation, maximum temperature, minimum temperature. A few years ago, we had a go at homogenizing mean sea level pressure, but we didn't have much luck as there weren't many, as there were quality issues with the data. When it comes to processes, the data undergoes QA, QC at a CDMS level first, and then undergoes further QC using packages such as Climdex or Climdex, which more recently is associated with Climpact. The data is quite often homogenized at a monthly level first. With regards to data, we focus on station data, which is obtained from the respective countries, metadata as well. However, in some cases, we obtain data from the former colonial administrators for the Pacific region. For example, Australia was responsible for meteorological observations in Papua New Guinea and the Solomon Islands from World War II until about the early 1980s. And in the case of New Zealand, New Zealand was responsible for many of the countries near and east of the dateline. We also use Error 5 reanalysis data as a reference series for air temperature homogenization on occasion. And we also use Hadley SST or similar as a reference series for temperature homogenization as well. Initially for minimum temperature, but more recently for both maximum and minimum temperature. In terms of methods, we use RHS version 4 and version 5. We ourselves don't use Prodigy for data homogenization at the Bureau of Meteorology, but Prodigy is used by Meteor France New Caledonia, and we're looking to take on the method ourselves over the coming year. In terms of detection and adjustment, in terms of detection, we use a reference series where we're available to detect discontinuities. And where a neighboring station is not available, we would use sea surface temperature for air temperature homogenization or the diurnal temperature range. Precipitation is tested for discontinuities, but it is not adjusted as we don't have confidence in current adjustment methods. In terms of people involved at the Bureau of Meteorology, there's Nicholas, Harold, and myself associated with Pacific data homogenization. Occasionally we have assistance from Blair Chuan, who is associated with Australian data homogenization. Earth Sciences New Zealand, formerly known as NIWA, have been associated with data homogenization in the Pacific, but not in recent years. We're looking now at products and services, well, a product in this case associated with visualizing homogenized data. The climate indices for Pacific Sectorial Applications Portal, which you see on screen, was launched a couple of months ago. And as I was saying, it's used to visualize homogenized data, but it's also used to visualize climate extremes indices associated with ClimPact for the 23 countries in the Pacific. Here's another product, in this case a publication, which is known as a Climate Change in the Pacific report. This was last produced in 2022. This is a peer-reviewed climate science report containing country-scale historical climate and ocean variability and trends information. It's produced for 15 countries in the Pacific, both in terms of a report, and there's also simplified pamphlets, as you see on the right. And as I was saying, these exist for 15 countries. In terms of needs and issues, project needs and issues, in terms of the project, Nick and I are associated with the Australian and New Zealand aid-funded Climate and Ocean Support Program in the Pacific, which is in its third phase, which has climate indices for Pacific Sectoral Applications portal activity, which is currently funding our Pacific homogenization efforts. In terms of needs and issues, we find that there's insufficient attention paid to QA/QC at a CDMS level, and this is something that the Bureau of Meteorology will focus on in years to come. There's a desperate need to address the decline in the quality and quantity of station observations in the Pacific, desperate need to address the decline in the collection of metadata. We also need stable funding to undertake further homogenization work in the future. Over the last 10 to 15 years, it's largely been project-based, and we can go through periods of 6, perhaps even 7 years where no funding is available and voluntary efforts are required. We've found over the last 10 to 15 years as well that there's a need to determine the level, better determine the level of involvement of Pacific Island countries. Some countries like Fiji are interested in the homogenization process and want to be involved. Other smaller countries like Niue and Palau, for example, don't have the resources to be able to homogenize their own data. And in terms of the delivery of workshops, it probably is more appropriate to focus on understanding what homogenization is and how homogenization can be used rather than providing training on data homogenization. There's also a need to better promote data homogenization and the ClimPact indices at a policy and community level. And here are a few references. The first associated with the portal that I talked about earlier, and the last associated with the Climate Change in the Pacific report that I also spoke about. And the middle references are papers associated with Pacific data homogenization in the past. Thank you.